This is a journey into sound.
Hello and welcome to episode 6, I think, or 7. Episode 7, if you count my weird life thing that I did a few months ago of Podcasty thing. We've been a bit quiet because life and family and stuff. So that's why there's not been one for the past couple of months. And trying to get our schedules to sort of coincide is a bit more difficult than it should be. Which is why there's not been an episode for, I think, June or July was the last one.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't one in
June.
August.
There wasn't one in August, definitely not. And then I was ill and it all went. But anyway, nobody wants to know about that. So I think we'll start as we normally do. We will try to do one there and find out what we have been reading when we've had time to read. So do you want to start out?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I know we're a science fiction and fantasy podcast.
Yeah, I know. I read
but
stuff.
other than this book, Clockwork Orange, I've been off the reservation, so to speak. So yeah, I read a Clockwork Orange, which some would call a dystopian sci-fi novel. So
Yes.
kind of counts. But other than that,
I've never seen that cover before.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? This is a penguin, I think. Yeah, this is the penguin, the newer penguin cover. So there's lots of good covers for this novel, though. Like there's
I've got like the original one. I can't remember the name of the artist who designed it, but I've got an original one I brought in mid-80s somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's it's been around a while. It's had a lot of reprints, I think. It's funny you've got the one from the mid-80s because I mentioned this in my review, but it was actually kind of like redacted, and they didn't release the full novel until after 1986. So because they didn't want the publisher didn't want the true ending to the novel. So only the copies after 1986 have the full story in it, which is bizarre.
Okay, I'll have to check my copy.
Yeah, I know, it's strange, right? I mean,
because I didn't know that, so I'll have to check my copy.
A lot of people read it, when they were teenagers and what have you, and they're probably thinking now, actually, which copy did I read? There you go.
So I did it for school.
Exactly, yeah.
Our final English exam, we were allowed to pick a book and then we had to discuss it. It was part of an oral exam. And they gave us a selection of books, or we could pick our own book, but we'd have to buy a copy for them to do it. And I picked A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, nice.
And I had to buy a copy for them to do it. But the problem is that I cannot remember what I spoke about. I know it's so long.
There's a lot you could speak about. It's very theme heavy.
I think a lot of it was about the language being used.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think the language is that weird. They effectively, when you look at a lot of Victorian novels, whether they are Russian translated or whether they're English, most of Europe during that time period were using French words, as part of their normal everyday conversations. They would put in French adjectives to kind of like make them seem more fancy, really, and see if anyone was as well educated as them. And all they've done in this is put a bunch of Russian adjectives in. Other than that, it's basically just he's talking like a bit of a Cockney wide boy, but thrown in a few Russian adjectives. Really, that's all.
A couple of pages. It's like Shakespeare. A couple of pages, you dial into it.
Yeah. The first chapter is rough. Like especially if you don't know what those words mean, the first chapter is very rough. But it's one of those things, I wouldn't say it's the easiest read in the world, but I wouldn't say it's a difficult read, personally, anyway. But and then I read very random. Went back to Tom Clancy. I was planning to read all of his Jack Ryan universe books in order, and this is like the prequel novel. And then I read The Big Sleep, Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep from this Everyman copy, because I wanted to read the Philip Marlowe novels, because I know Criminology's always pushing those, recommending those on his channel. What about yourself, man? What have you been reading?
I've read every short story possible on overpopulation. I think I have found them all.
Wow.
From some authors I've got especially in the 50s, there's a bunch in the 50s, about 10, 12 short stories in the 50s that I went in search of, and most of them are copyright free. Couldn't find them in conditions. Most of them I managed to get ebook versions of them, or I managed to get PDFs that I then chucked into an EPUB document and managed to sort them out. But they were like people like Miriam Allen Ford, who I've never read before. And there's one called The Tunnel Ahead by Alice Glazer. There's actually a short film on YouTube that somebody won an award on it. So I've got all these, and this is all to do with the YouTube videos I'm bringing out. So all these short stories I've got, I think, and there's a couple of Robert Silverberg's in there, and but I said there's loads of them. There is loads of them. I didn't realize there was that many. I went down this rabbit hole. I was searching for this Robert Silverberg one called Why, and that was a nightmare. I did find it in the end, but just because of the stupid title he gave it made it really difficult to find, because it wasn't in any of his collections. I've got a couple of collections of stuff, and it was just in the original publication. Then I found a copy of the original publication, and then somebody put that online, and it was a bit of a nightmare. But I've got copies of them all in EPUB documents, and I'm gonna, because they're all out of copyright now, I'm going to put them in a file on my Google Drive, and when I do the video around them, I'm going to give people a link to them so they can go and read them.
Yeah.
Which I thought I would do.
Do you know what? You're not by any chance planning to write like a book on this, are you?
I wasn't planning originally, but I've gone down.
I'm telling you now, I think this sounds like a great idea for a book. You know, I could definitely see that getting published. You know, like obviously a lot of these, as you're saying, these stories started to really circulate in volume in the 50s. Obviously, that was the baby boom era following World War II. Imagine if you looked at, you know, the social dynamics and how that turned, how it influenced the genre fiction of the time. There's definitely a book there.
It's quite interesting because, it's quite interesting because Make Room, which I did my intro to sci-fi on, which I also just reread, that came out 2 years before a famous non-fiction book called The Population Explosion. I can't remember what somebody did, and that was the book. The Population Explosion was the whole genesis of the overpopulation ideas, and in some ways it brought in bad things. It was like weird population control in China and in India that was all caused by this book. And I think from what I was been reading around, I've not read it greatly in depth, but it seems to be that the main issue with it was the fact that they looked at it as too simplistic, that it wasn't just overpopulation, it was overconsumption. Because when you get
resources, makes sense.
Resources. But the Harry Harrison, when he wrote Make Room, was quite interesting, because the reason he wrote that book was because some guy from India told him that he should invest in rubber, because overpopulation was going to be the next big thing, and you birth control was the best thing to do. And Harry Harrison said, "Well, I didn't really want to be the rubber baron of the world." But he wrote another story called a short story called A Criminal Act, which is actually quite a nice comparison to the Alice Glazer one, The Tunnel Ahead, about controlling population. But he wrote that when he was really, really angry. He was really, and you can tell in the writing of it. So, as you said, there's probably a book in this somewhere.
Yeah, I think so. You know, just given that, you know, looking at both sides. You know, like they say, the social dynamic and the non-fiction, and comparing that, you know, to the genre fiction, especially like the cadence, like which one came out first, and you know.
But yeah, it was interesting. I didn't originally think there was much before Harry Harrison's Make Room, but there is a bunch of stuff that I didn't realize. It must be post-war, must be to do with the post-war. There's the crowded. I've got this Crowded Earth that Gavin from Genre Reads recommended, which I managed to get that really bad cover one, which I've read. I don't think this is, I've not really read much of Robert Bloch, but it's an interesting story, but it gets a bit too, it sounds weird, a bit too sci-fi-y. I wanted a bit more.
It sounds like a sci-fi topic though, man. So
yeah, but it went a bit too off
much.
The reservation.
Yeah, jumped the shark.
And I sort of like it a bit more realism in it. But then you go back to books like The Blade Runner, which is the book that they stole the title from for the film.
Stole the title from,
which is Alan Norse, and that's all in overcrowded worlds. But even things like The Caves of Steel, Isaac Asimov, that came out in 1952, that book there, that's all about overpopulation in sort of in the background. But there's so much. And I sort of, as I said, I went down this huge rabbit hole, and I said I've read probably, I think I'm pretty sure I've read every story through the 50s, from about 1945 onwards. Couldn't find anything pre-1945. There might be, there probably is the odd one, but it seems to be post-war.
Yeah, most of it before then was probably more indirect, because like you've got like Mary Shelley's The Last Man.
Yeah.
I think it's a concept that's toyed with there, but only because everyone's dying because of like a virus, but it's not, I don't think anyone really considered it an issue until after World War II, really. So, it's probably just been toyed with before. I don't think anyone's ever tried to tackle the issue. So,
it's a great way to discover writers. But Miriam Ann Ford, I said there was 2 stories about hers about overpopulation, and I really need to delve into more of her stuff because that was really good. Alice Glazer, sadly, she was a teacher. She wrote a few bits, but she was also editor for Esquire magazine. But she died in 1971, and they think it was suicide. And she was only about 41, so which was a real shame for that. But there's a bunch of women writers around that period that were writing short stories more than anything. I think they were getting picked up more for the short stories than they were for novels, just obviously due to the sexism of the day and people. And they were aiming science fiction at young boys a lot of the time then as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be editor of Esquire though at 41, that's quite a big thing as well.
Yeah, it was quite a big thing, yeah. And then the other book I basically read, I did a reread of Clifford Simak's All Flesh is Grass, which I don't know if you know.
No, I've not heard of that one.
I'll tell you if this sounds familiar to you. A mysterious dome appears over a city, over a town.
Okay,
and people can't get out. This was 1969.
So that story's never been ripped off then.
Yeah, way before Stephen King. Way before Stephen King. And it's put there by a bunch of space aliens who were trying to make people be nice to each other. And it's a really, really good book. And I've not read it for about probably since I was at school, actually, because I found it in a library originally. But yeah, but you read the synopsis and you think, okay, Stephen, what have you done here? And that's about it, really. I'm not some comic stuff I've been reading. I'm increasing my collection of Star-Lord comics, which I'm going to do a video on at some point.
Yeah, I saw you got a few more.
Yeah, because I remember the character of Star-Lord, which when he appeared in the Guardians of the Galaxy, the film, I thought, I know this character, but he didn't look anything like this.
Yeah.
Because what it was the original Star Wars comic used to have reprints of the Star-Lords in the back of it. And that's where I remembered it from. And I've been going down that rabbit hole for about the past year, trying to find bits on it. But yeah, that's basically most of my reading for the past few months, really. Because if anybody follows me on Goodreads, I've not updated it for ages. I need to go in there and sort it all out. I've just not got around to it because I think it's got books on there that I know I finished and things.
Yeah. I think you're a bit behind. Maybe like
yeah, probably. But yeah, so that's all I've been reading. I don't know what I've got coming up at the moment because I've got a few bits I need to catch up on, and I've not got anything specific. I'm just trying to. I got a couple more overpopulation short stories to finish. The video I was doing on like the 50s bit started was going to be a quick one, and now it's ended up being longer. So I thought, well, I need to do it justice. So that'll be out probably in the next week, that one. But it's going to be about there's only going to be about 2 or 3 videos on it now. But yeah, that's about it. So have you got anything coming up that you're reading?
Yeah, I'm gonna get another Malazan book done. And I'm gonna be doing some spooky kind of reading, for October. Putting a few, not necessarily all horror books, but like horror adjacent. So it might be like a sci-fi adjacent.
I've got
a classics adjacent horror story or something.
Yeah, I was thinking about October, but I don't normally specifically aim for horror books. But I've got a book a friend sent me, which is a load of stories around Cthulhu, around H.P. Lovecraft stuff, all by different authors. So I might actually, I've had that for a few years. I might actually get around and read that because it's all short stories, just as an excuse to get onto it.
Yeah, I'll probably read some Cthulhu myself. I'm thinking At the Mountains of Madness. I think I'll probably read.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's one of these. It's really weird. I remember when I first read it, and I'm thinking, it's a very slow story because it is incredibly slow, but it's all the creep as you get with all H.P. Lovecraft. It's all the creeping sense of stuff going on there.
Yeah. Dunwich Horror was a lot like that. It's very much implied. Obviously it's only like a 70-page novella or something, but it's probably mostly implied for the first 50 or 70 pages. He likes to just build the atmosphere, doesn't he, Lovecraft? So
so on to the next bit. Some stuff on YouTube. Brian Durfee's back and he's out of hospital finally, and he's making videos again, so which is great. I've not really seen huge amounts. I'm behind on a lot of stuff at the moment. I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head that to highlight. I think you had something on the list you sent me. Oh yes, Alison.
Well, obviously Brian was in hospital, and I know Randy Ray, the lyric Texan, was in hospital around the same time. They're both back out and doing much better now. I'm both making videos again, which is great to see. But unfortunately, we lost Alice from Alice in the Giant Bookshelf, who was someone I followed on BookTube almost since she started, to be fair. But must have been just before I started my channel. I used to watch her videos. She's one of the reasons I read Poirot every year as well, and it's just really like it was a real shock.
Yeah, it was when I saw that come up.
Because we didn't used to talk regularly, but we used to talk over comments, probably at least once a month. And it was just really, hard to get my head around the fact that I couldn't just comment on one of her videos, or I'll never see her comment on one of my videos again, and we'll never be able to chat about a book. And it's just, we don't live that far apart. As well. And, I never went to any of the meetups they did in London or anything. But it's just it really hit me for 6, and I've been going back and watching all of her videos from her first video, just so I feel like that, I don't know, element of BookTube is still there for me, really, because she's in a corner of BookTube that I don't frequent very often. Cozy BookTube isn't my area of BookTube, but her channel, because she always had quite a lot of like crime thrillers and stuff on there. I used to like going to her channel just to kind of catch up on crime thrillers, and it's just she was such a lovely person. Her content was so good. I think it's just nice her husband's like keeping her channel up for people like me that just want to continue to watch her videos.
But also the fact that she was a British booktuber is good, because there's a lot less of us than there is of American ones, basically.
It's true.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that gets published across here, you can pick up, because sometimes on some channels people say, "Oh, I forgot this," and you think, "Where am I going to find a copy of that from?"
And just generally on the Seen on YouTube section, I don't know about you, but I'm not getting a lot of YouTube. Like a lot of BookTube rather on YouTube at the moment. It's not being pushed by. It doesn't seem to be pushed by the algorithm much anymore. Also, like a lot of people that had BookTube channels have quit. Like I saw this thing because a lot of people put out reaction videos like, "Is BookTube like, are people quitting BookTube?" And I didn't think it was a thing. Because obviously Brian Lee Durfee was unwell. Randy Ray was unwell. We obviously lost Alice. I thought it was more like we're just, we're kind of going through a bad patch or something, and maybe people aren't able to put out as many videos. I know like MJ was like writing a book and stuff like that. Michael K. Vaughan had a lot of work on, so he couldn't get on very regularly. I just assumed it was like a rough patch, but the more I look at it, actually a lot of people I'd subscribed to they're just not making videos. They've quit or something. I don't know what's going on.
And it's actually quite difficult to find new channels. So if anybody knows of any, please put some in the comments to recommend to go and visit, because occasionally I find one, but not as many as I used to. Newer ones.
For me, the best way to do that is MJ's channel. She does support small BookTube, where she highlights new channels every Sunday. But the thing is, like, a lot of the time, it won't be stuff that you're necessarily interested in. So you might have to watch a few episodes to find a new person. But that is, as a shout out to MJ, that's one way. But it's getting harder. I think it's getting harder.
Also, I think the algorithms are a bit up there. I keep getting recommended weird right-wing conspiracy theory stuff, and I'm thinking, I never looked at any of this stuff. Why am I getting recommended it?
They put in a new piece of software. I don't know when it was, but they sent me like a little thing saying that, you know, are you finding that your recommendations are more suitable now that we've changed this thing? And the answer is no.
It's definitely got worse.
But there you go.
Yeah.
The only other thing I saw was there's a New York book tag flying around at the moment. I think Jim created it, but I saw Farrah and Albert do it as well. So I think that will probably do the usual rounds. So we might see that.
Yeah, I've got about 6 lined up that people have tagged me in. There's a couple I'm going to probably do in the next few weeks. I sort of go for phases of doing something, and I give it a bit of a rest, so it's not all that's on my channel.
Yeah.
What's I going to go? Yeah. So now, what have we watched? I've watched a lot of stuff, but I've probably had more time than you.
Yeah, let's start with your list because there's quite a bit to go through.
Yeah. Also, I was ill, so I watched a lot when I was ill as well.
Yeah, true.
Where's my list? I obviously went to see the new Deadpool film, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I enjoyed, but I will say it's narratively it's a bit of a mess. It's basically a lot of cameos. It was fun, but it's not. If you looking for a good story, probably not the thing to go to. But it was nice to see. It was nice to see the original costume of Wolverine in action.
A lot of fan service.
Yeah, a lot of fan service. And if you sit there and if you think about the story and the timeline thing, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But it was a fun watch, and I'll watch it again and probably enjoy it. So I saw that. I did see the new. This was ages ago. I don't know whether I've mentioned it to anybody. The new Planet of the Apes film.
Yeah, I think you might have mentioned that
last time.
Which was we did that. We spoke about that offline.
Yeah, so I was looking back on a list of stuff, and I was thinking, did I ever mention that before? Which was a fun film, but it's a bit forgettable because I can't really remember what the hell it was on about. Which is my thing. Everything I saw recently, I saw Civil War.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Is it worth it? It's a really good film, but it's not the film we think it's going to be. The trailer doesn't. The trailer makes it look almost like it's going to be about all the stuff bringing governments down and what have you, but really it's following a bunch of war reporters. Think following a load of Vietnam War reporters. That's what the film it really is.
Yeah.
But it's good. It is really good. But
was that just clever marketing then?
Yeah, I think they were. I think the marketing was just following what was going on politically in the States at the time, and I think that's what they were doing. It is a very good film, but that's what it really is.
Yeah.
I saw The Fall Guy the other day.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah,
I took my kids to see it at the cinema. They loved that.
And that was fun. Yes, I said I remember the original TV series, and we saw Lee Majors with all his plastic surgery at the end, whose face is stretched to whatever. But yes, it was a fun film. It was well done and it was well executed. Isn't the same director as done some of the John Wick films? Or am I
that would make sense. It seems to be edited in a similar style.
Yeah, and and I said all the scenes and all the stunts are so well executed, which it needed to be.
Yeah,
but yeah, that made no sense either as well. But that was fun. I watched Wheel of Time season 2.
No spoilers. I've only watched the first 2 episodes.
I really, really like it. I really liked it, but then I've not read the book of season 2. But I really, really enjoyed it. My Rosie, my wife, loved it as well. It's when you get to the end of it, it doesn't feel like they ran out of budget either, because the end of the first season, it felt like they ran out of budget.
Yes, definitely.
Apparently, it's amalgamating the second and third books. It's bits of both.
Yeah, it's a mess. I can tell you for a fact. From
think
the first 2 episodes, I can tell you it's taking parts from definitely there's parts of book 4 in there. It's all sorts of it's crazy. It's all sorts of nonsense in there, but if you haven't read them, obviously it's
Yeah.
a clean slate. You know, it
Yeah.
makes sense all over again.
But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. And I've now only read book 1, but now I'm probably going to read book 2. But it was well done. It made a lot more sense. There's a couple of annoying bits in it, but there isn't any season. I've also started on Rings of Power for all my sins.
I haven't started it yet. I have to watch it, but I'm
Well, I
so
saw the first season.
angry. I'm so angry about the first season. I genuinely haven't got in a discussion with anyone online about it because I don't want to cry.
See,
I mean,
I watched it and I thought I can either sit here and pick holes about the fact that it doesn't match any of Tolkien's stuff and they've gone all over the place, or I can just sit here and just pretend it's nothing to do with Lord of the Rings and quite enjoy it, which is what I've basically done. The second season is a bit better, though there are some quite weird things that they've taken from all over the place, but it's what they've got rights for. But yeah, just try not to think about it as Lord of the Rings. That's what I say.
It's tough. I've noticed that a couple of the things people complained about they've addressed. Like I can tell straight away from trailers and from posters and stuff that they've tried to tweak. They've tried to turn the dial a little bit. But it's not about like serving the fans for me. It's like I would have preferred if absolutely no one liked it and it got cancelled after like one episode, but it looked and felt like his material, and it was faithful to the material. That's all I care about.
It doesn't really feel like, I don't know whether it's because we related to the Peter Jackson ones that it doesn't quite feel right in the sort of tone of it.
I think that era, all of that stuff before Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah,
I think it has a completely different feel to the Lord of the Rings anyway. I don't think it should look and feel like that. And I agree with a complete kind of style change even. But I just don't think they landed it at all. I don't think they landed it. Do you know what we ended up with a hyper polished version of like the Hobbit movies?
Yes, that's the problem.
That's basically what we've ended up with. And I think the Hobbit movies went completely the wrong way as well. I think that should have been a much more scaled back, reductive feel.
It's a children's book.
Yeah,
everybody seems to forget it was a children's book.
That's what I'm saying. Like the Hobbit didn't feel like magical enough. It didn't feel like a small person in a big world enough. It was just I just feel that all of this going for such grand scope and action and stuff like that. It's failed to like capture like the more intimate stuff. But
as a watching experience, Wheel of Time is 100 times better.
Oh, that's promising.
But my worry with the Wheel of Time is they're going to cancel it before they get to the last few books.
Yeah, most likely.
Because
if all that happens is you read the second book, that's a win for that series for me. Because if you enjoyed Eye of the World, The Great Hunt is a much better book. Duncan, it's a much better book. It's a really good book, man. It's a really good book. And for me as well, book 3 is the best book, like arguably the best book in the series so far. So like, they get really, really good.
Yeah, because I recently because the other thing I watched was The Peripheral, which I didn't realize it got cancelled after the first season until I finished watching it. Which is obviously from the William Gibson book, and as much as you sometimes sit there and think what is going on, and I still don't understand the ending of it. Don't understand the ending of it at all, and I need to get the book now to read it to find out what the hell that was. But it was really good, and they've cancelled it after one season, and it needed a second season to work out what's going on. And it bugs me when they keep doing that at the moment. And I know the reason they do it is because they get more new people coming in for a new season than following up seasons of stuff. But then they've always done that stuff. But The Peripheral is still worth watching. It is high concept. It's very sort of hard sci-fi. If you know William Gibson's work, it's probably quite a good representation of him. Because I've got a weird thing. William Gibson, I read Neuromancer when it came out, and I hated the book. I hated it with so much.
Don't say that. I'm reading that next year.
But I reread it then many years later, and I love it now.
Okay.
It's one of these ones that this is why I said it's always worth rereading books that you didn't like. So I really like it, and I've got all of the books. I've not read them all in that group of books, but I've got them all, and I keep meaning to get around to actually finishing them off. But no, Neuromancer, and if you think about when it was written and stuff like that as well, it is really, really good, and it's a lot better than I said. When I read it originally, I absolutely hated it. Anything else? Oh, the other thing I watched, non-sci-fi was A Gentleman in Moscow, which was on Paramount Channel, which has got Ewan McGregor in, and it's set after the Russian Revolution, and it's this guy that basically gets under house arrest in a hotel, and it's following his story, and it's based on a book by Emil Towles, I think the name of that is, and it is really, really good. I really, really loved it. And he's in this hotel for about 15 years, just has to live under house arrest. The bit to get past is they've gone colorblind with the casting, so you have lots of people of African descent, and there was none in Russia at this time because Russia didn't colonize like all the other places. But they've got such good actors playing them. After about an episode, you sort of forget about that totally.
Yeah,
because sometimes when they do the sort of colorblind casting, it doesn't quite work.
You'd think that they would make use of period appropriate, because obviously you had a lot of like people from the steppes, like from like towards Mongolia and that kind of area that would have been integrated into the population more. You'd think they would take that opportunity to show a different kind of culture there, but obviously not.
But from what I understand, Russia at the time, because they didn't colonize like Britain did, or like
no, that's right,
or France or anybody else, they really didn't. There was very, very few people of color in Russia. So when you watch the first episode, it sort of jars a little bit, but when you get past that, they picked really good people and they are really, really good actors. So after a while, you just totally forget about it and go with the story. And the story is just really, really good. I need to read the book now.
What happens?
Yeah, I really do need to read the book. But yeah, it's just following him being stuck in this hotel, and then you've got all the secret police going, all the KGB going around in the background, and it's all the background of he's almost like sheltered because it's this high class hotel that they're trying to keep the appearances up, so when people visit, they think Russia's a lovely country and that they haven't got all the food shortages and all the gulags and stuff that they did have. So in some ways he's sheltered from a lot of that, so he's still doing fine wine. But there's a bit where they take all they've got this big wine cellar in this place, but somebody decides they take all the labels off the wine and just call it wine, red or white. That's all you got the choice of. You can't pick the year or anything. And he's up in arms because to him, wine is history. Where it was grown and what have you. Because they said, so he's there, so he ends up being a taster to tell people which where the wine is from.
Actually in the bottles,
yeah.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, it's great. If anybody's subscribed to Paramount or wants to get a free thing, it's well worth watching. And apparently, I was reading that they were originally going to put Kenneth Branagh in the lead role, but for some reason he dropped out. And I can actually see him playing that.
Yeah. I was about to say that sounds like a role for Kenneth Branagh, man. He would love that. But to be fair, like Ewan McGregor, as he's got older, he's kind of falling into that Kenneth Branagh kind of.
Oh yeah, he's really mature. He's one of these actors. If he's in a film, even if I don't like the sound of the film, I would normally watch.
Yeah.
And there's very few actors. Yeah.
Seems like a good guy.
Yeah. And that's all my watching. There's probably some other things, but that's basically been over the past few months.
Yeah, like you, I saw the Wolverine and Deadpool movie, it's I don't know, it's got Tourette's. It makes sense because it's Deadpool, but it's like a 2 hour 40-minute YouTube short. It's not like a movie, but it is fun while it lasts. I watched Beetlejuice, which is interesting in that way that you were just saying. Like they bring these shows out and then they kill them off because obviously the hype dies down and you don't get as many viewers later on. But what they fail to understand is if you keep these series on your platform for a long period of time and kind of cycle around the recommendation, you'll build an audience over time, over like 10 years, over 15 years. Like, because Beetlejuice is like, it's a cult movie. You know, if you watched that as a kid in the 80s, and now you've grown up with it over time, you've gone and shown it to people, you've recommended it to people, and then this Beetlejuice sequel that has no right to make a load of money and be really popular, but it has made a load of money and it is really popular because it's an IP that has a very has a longer tail now, back into the 80s, and it has a much larger audience than it ever had originally. And a lot of these series, as you were saying, if they would just take a bath on it, like, we know we're going to make our money back season 1, we'll probably break even season 2, and then for the rest of the seasons we're going to lose money. We know we're going to lose money, but we will recuperate that money 10 years time when everyone's seen it. Because right now, I talk to people, and guess what people are watching? They're rewatching The Sopranos, they're rewatching Breaking Bad, they're rewatching, do you know what I mean? They're rewatching the same things. And that only happens over time, you're not going to get that audience retention like straight off the rip. So, these companies, they need to understand, like, we'll set a budget to make the whole thing, they adapt the whole thing, and then we won't make that money back in, maybe not even in 5 years. We'll make it down the line. They just need to be able to hold their nerve a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I was annoyed when The Expanse, they sort of stopped it. As much as it finished in an okay place, they didn't do the rest of the books. It's just like, really bugged the hell out of me.
Yeah, I didn't watch too much more. I did start that Walking Dead show, Daryl Dixon spin-off. Me and my wife, we watched all of The Walking Dead. We watched some of the Fear the Walking Dead, but we haven't watched any of the stuff since the mainline season finished. So we decided, we'll give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. It's weird. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's as much budget. It doesn't feel like the actors are given as many takes to get the, it just feels very scaled back. It's fine. It's entertaining, but in that same way that Rings of Power, I'm not invested. I'm not really invested. It's enjoyable enough to watch. It will kill some time, but I'm not massively invested.
See, I watched Fear the Walking Dead, which I actually really like. We watched a while ago, I think after the Walking Dead series made, the one with the kids. What was it called? One with the kids in the, I don't know, sort of trailer. I can't remember.
I know the one you mean. I don't know what it's called either. I can see
World
the
Beyond.
thumbnail.
Yeah, The World Beyond.
Yeah,
that had its moments, but it was trying to link up with the other series as well, and it was okay. So that was thing. And I've not seen any of the Daryl Dixon ones or the there's the other one with Maggie, isn't there, and Negan going into New York.
Michonne and Rick as well. I'm gonna watch them eventually when we get around to it. But I don't know if you've noticed, but they re-released at the cinema a Phantom Menace for its anniversary. Do you remember?
Yes, I went to see that.
Cool. So it made so much money for the cinemas that they're playing all of the Star Wars movies in order now, in chronological order. They're currently on episode 3. I haven't been going to the cinema and watching them, but because episodes 4 to 6 are about to come round, and I haven't had a chance to watch them at the cinema since 1997. I'm thinking I might have to sneak out and rewatch the original trilogy again, because you just can't beat those movies, man.
I know.
It's a shame they don't head and shoulders above everything they've put in that universe.
It's a shame they don't do the theatrical ones, but that's a whole different conversation about that.
Yes, I too believe all the elements they added hurt the experience.
Yeah, I've got copies of the theatrical ones.
Yeah,
there's despecialized editions which I've got copies of, and I've also got the original VHSs of them that they're released, which has got the theatrical ones on, which are normally the ones I go for. But the special editions, I remember the fuss when they came out. There was a huge thing about it when they brought out the special editions, because we'd not had any Star Wars content for ages. But there's bits of what they changed which work, but there's some bits of it just like great. Like jab around the Millennium Falcon is just doesn't work at all.
No,
but they're still worth this. I still quite happily go and see them. I said if they end up in the cinema here, I will probably go to see them again in the cinema.
Yeah, well, they're landing around my way in about a week and a half's time, and I'm definitely going to watch them. So,
well, we've not had. They showed the Phantom Menace here, so we've only got our cinema's got one screen, and we get films and about 3 months after anybody else. And if they do, and they don't always come here. But the Phantom Menace, there was quite a few people in there when we went to see that. It was quite crowded because sometimes when they show old films, there's hardly anybody in there.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, they did the Star Trek, the motion picture, and the Wrath of Khan, which I went to.
I went to those too when they rebrought those out. Oh, it's fantastic. I'd never seen Wrath of Khan at cinema. Obviously, I wasn't old enough. I was a baby. So it was great for me because I never had.
But it was nice they did. It was nice they did the director's version of the motion picture because motion picture is still my favorite film.
It's a great film.
I still think it's the most cinematic of all of them.
The shots in that, the panoramic shots and stuff are
and the making of it is just, how they made it is just incredible. But I saw that. And so when they bring these films back, they had this weekend, yesterday, tonight, and tomorrow. They were showing all 3 extended editions of the Lord of the Rings in our cinema. The thing is, we only found out on Thursday.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, God, you could have given somebody notice.
Yeah, I went to see those last year. They were released at the cinema near me, all the extended ones. And they were one day after the other. And no, in fact, it was they did Fellowship one evening, and then Two Towers and Return of the King, they did back-to-back the next day. So it was like Friday night, they did Fellowship, and then Saturday, back-to-back, they did Two Towers and Return of the King. And I took my son, my little son, I took him to see the Fellowship, and after 4 hours of Fellowship, he tapped out. He didn't come back for the other 2 days. It was so, we walked out of there, like gone midnight or whatever it was on the Friday night, and he was shattered. He was absolutely knackered. So I went back and watched the other 2 on my own. And it was weird because I went in the morning and came out and it was nighttime. It was just because, those 2 movies back to back are just so long, like 9 hours or something.
See, the thing is, I never originally saw the Fellowship in the cinema. I saw the Two Towers and Return of the King because I refused to go to see Fellowship of the Ring because my worry was I thought, I love these books. I don't want this film to destroy my memories of these books. And in the end, I was talked into it. And I'm so glad I did because I now have 2 sections in your brain. I have the book section and then I have the film section which are totally different, sort of memory wise. So I sort of compartmentalized them that way. But yes, when the films came out, I thought, do I want to see this? But then I really sat back and I watched Ralph Bakshi's versions of Lord of the Rings, the animated ones.
Yeah.
Which, as much as they got problems, I really like. And the fact they stopped halfway through the Battle of Helm's Deep is just really weird.
Yeah. Yeah, look, in my head, that's the only Lord of the Rings I had as a kid as well. And when the Fellowship came out, my brother and my uncle went to see it, and they were raving about it. They were just like, "It's so good, it's so good." I was not happy at all. I was not up for going to watch it. But they talked me round to it, and I have to admit, it did look a lot like I had in my head because I've spoken to you before how they used Alan Lee as the art director for those movies, and that's kind of what I had in my head. And I was just surprised they managed to pull it off so well. Really, I like. Unlike a lot of people, I don't think they get close to the quality of the books personally, but I am surprised at how close it is in look and feel. I really am.
Yeah, I think in some ways, Christopher Tolkien, when he described it as an adventure film, a swashbuckling films that weren't really like the books, he's probably got quite close on that description when you really go back to reread them.
Yeah.
I must reread them next year, I think. There's a guy on Threads, which I'm on, and I don't go on very often, but he is reading the books for the first time, and he'd only ever seen the films, and he's noting down all the different things that he's finding in the books compared to the films, and it's really interesting to follow.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it is in interpretation as well. It's not like the books aren't, so the movies aren't being faithful to the books, because they are. It's just like a lot of it is like context,
Yeah,
a lot of
it.
There was interpretation.
There's a video I put on my community tab the other day by somebody showing Lord of the Rings, how they swapped the words around, where in the book some people say certain sentences, certain phrases, and they put them onto a different character, and that's quite interesting for the context of it. Talking about adaptations, just jumping a bit, HBO are bringing out another adaptation of Salem's Lot, which I'm in sort of two minds about, because the Tobe Hooper one I remember as a kid, because I watched it as a kid. I was about 11 years old.
Yeah.
How my parents let me watch it, I got no idea, but I did. And I'm forever freaked out by tapping on windows, which I think most people in my generation are. I didn't realise there was one that came out in 2004 with Rob Lowe in a copy version, an adaptation of it, and I think who else has got it? It's got Rutger Hauer in it as well.
I haven't seen that one. I've only seen I've only seen the original one. Was it David Soul who was in it originally?
Yes, David Soul.
Yeah. So my mum thought it'd be funny when I was about 10 years old to make me watch it. It wasn't very funny. I found that absolutely terrifying. That like the scene where the
tapping on the window.
Yeah, that's horrendous. No 10-year-old should ever be watching that. That's horrendous. I was spooked out by that until I don't know. I think it took watching The Lost Boys to kind of bring me back around with vampires in the end. But that absolutely ruined me when I was little. But
the Rob Lowe one, I went in search of it once. I found a couple of days ago. Can't find a copy anywhere unless you want to pay about £50 for the DVD or something stupid.
Yeah,
it's not on streaming anywhere or anything. But I will track down a copy of it. But I said this one, the trailer, they're doing it as I think it's only 123 minutes long. The trailer looks interesting. The trailer looks, as long as they do a better job than the adaptation that somebody did of The Stand a couple of years back, which I just thought didn't work at all. But the problem is, The Salem's Lot is probably my favourite King book.
Such a good book.
Yeah,
and like it's genuinely just creepy. It's a creepy book. It's like, but I think for me it worked better as a mini series. I don't mean like a 8-10 episodes. I'm talking about like 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah,
because I think Salem's Lot, it's more about like the town and the characters, and it's I don't know. It feels almost like a crime book, almost like in like a whodunit. It, even though you get into you start reading that book, there's a vampire in that book. It doesn't feel like there's a vampire in that book for like half the book. It just feels like
it's just him writing his book and meeting, can't remember her name, and just doing stuff about
like people are going missing and people are dying and weird things are happening, but it never ever ever feels like it's to do with a vampire. It just I feel like maybe they miss a little bit of a trick on that, but I'm sure they'll make it creepy still, so I'm sure it'll capture that part at least.
But so I'm quite intrigued by that. I saw that. There's nothing else to really I've been watching or anything. I think Daryl Dixon stuff. But have you got? I think it's basically what have you got coming up on the channel? Have you got some stuff? Have you time to record anything?
So what I've been having to do is do like very like short bursts. Like I'll just set up and I'll just record for an hour and I'll try to do a bunch of videos all together. And then I might not be able to record for 3 weeks. So I might just like grab an hour's time, record some stuff, and then not be able to record for 3 weeks. So I've recorded some videos based on like Goodreads. So that's what Goodreads says about what I read effectively. I think I was watching, it might have been Greg's channel. I can't remember who it was, but someone did a series of videos. Oh, it was Michael Romeo, I think, did a series of videos on it. And I thought I'll basically just copy his idea, really, because I have no time to sort my own life out.
Greg's got a video out about comparing Goodreads to Library Thing, which I'd never even heard of Library Thing.
I'd never heard of it either. Yeah, it's a good video, though.
I'm not. It's on my watch list. I've got to get around to watching it, but because I must admit, Goodreads is I have a sort of funny thing with it because it's not changed for years, and it's just not the best interface at all.
It's not great, but they don't seem to want to be able to invest money to fix the bugs and stuff it's got. So I mean, it's going to continue to be a bit annoying, really. I think, but I'll do a spooky season TBR video, and I'll probably do a Malazan Book 5 review for Midnight Tides, and that's about all I've got time for, to be honest. What about you?
I've got coming out today, which is probably after this video comes out, because hopefully this will go out Monday or Tuesday. I've I've got a little video of a friend of mine sent me a box of stuff, which only actually got one book in it, but I've got that, which is going up later today. I've got a video hopefully coming out tomorrow, which is my issues with omnibus books that are omnibuses, which I've got. I've got some more, I said, overpopulation stuff over the next week. And obviously it's my BookTube anniversary on the 19th, I think it is. So I've got some stuff around there. And I'm going to have a top 20 of adaptations from comics. My favorite.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that.
Which is not what, there's a few superhero stuff. There's not much superhero stuff in there. And I'll pick some.
So I've got a request. Duncan.
Yep.
If you'd be so kind, bring that list to next month's episode of Podcasty thing, because I want to be able to dissect it and debate it with you, because I think it's going to be a very interesting thought process.
Yeah, because I thought, okay, let's do something like that, and then I was trying to think, okay, if we go away from the superheroes, what other stuff? And there's some stuff that you've watched, and you suddenly think, actually, that's adapted from a comic as well. Mm-hmm. Some really weird things that you totally forget. I'm not going to say what they are, because
no, don't, because my thoughts started changing. I was like, hang on a minute, where's he going to go with this? Because there's a lot of stuff that's been adapted. You know, I'm thinking out of the box, but I'm also thinking a lot of, like, even if you went for the stuff everyone's going to think of, even those conversations are very interesting to have as well. So
yeah. Even though I've got some Marvel stuff. There is a couple of Marvel things in there.
Yeah.
So there is some stuff like that in there, but there's also some quite weird French things in there. And
I was thinking the same thing. Okay, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be fun for sure.
Yeah. So I'm doing that in two parts, because otherwise it's taking too long. And I've started recording the first part, so hopefully the first part will be out back end of the week. I'm hoping to get it out sort of this week. And I've got a load of stuff to catch up on. I've still kind of finished my Eye of the World videos, because I finished the book and I was meant to be recording them as I was going along, but then stuff happened. But I've got pages of notes that I wrote as I was reading it. So I'm going to finish that off in probably 2 sections. Whether that comes out, this probably won't be out till October, that in reality, because I've got too much bits I want to do this month. Yeah. And I did write down a quick list, didn't I? That's your list. That's my list. Yeah. Oh, and another thing this is not to do with videos or something. There is a TV series that I discovered that came out in 1998 or 99 called Total Recall 2070.
What?
Okay. It was so-called a follow-on from the film, but it's not. It is more like Blade Runner-y, Do Androids Dream Electric Sheep. Ran for 1 season.
Yeah.
And it is really, really good. There is copies on YouTube, because some really nice man has upscaled them to HD and put them on YouTube. And I would recommend anybody who likes Philip K. Dick to go and watch them, because
it's funny, isn't it? Because that's right around the same time they did that. Is it Sarah Connor Chronicles for Terminator and stuff like that?
Yeah,
there was a lot of that happening, right? I don't know if it was off the back of the Battlestar Galactica reboot or something like that, but all of a sudden there was a lot of that kind of thing happening.
But they only ran for 1 season. It is really good. The production values are really good, and I said it's more related to Blade Runner, Do Androids Dream Electric Sheep than it is to Total Recall, though there's a mention of Recall, the company, in it. I've watched about half of them so far. I can't remember how many episodes there is off the top of my head, but it is well worth a watch. And it's like, where was this series? Why have I never heard of this? I don't think it came over to the UK. I really don't.
Well, I'm confident it'll be better than the Colin Farrell reboot movie anyway, so let's not talk about that.
I enjoyed that film, even though...
Did you really?
It is total nonsense.
Yeah, I can't say that it was that good, to be honest.
But then...
I struggled with it.
Oh, yeah, I just watched Colin Farrell doing weird things.
Yeah. Talking about Colin Farrell doing weird things, are you going to watch The Penguin?
I probably will, but I really didn't want any more obscure Batman stuff. In some ways, I wish they'd leave Batman alone for a bit.
I know. I feel like I have to watch it though because it's so
Yeah.
strange seeing Colin Farrell as the Penguin. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's like the new Joker film that's basically a musical. I enjoyed the Joker, I must admit.
I'm absolutely up for that. That sounds great because I'm thinking musical. Like, did you watch Sweeney Todd?
No, I've never seen that.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be like that. Watch the Johnny Depp Sweeney Todd movie. I think it's gonna be that kind of musical.
Yeah.
So not like a traditional format necessarily, but I in my head I'm thinking of like, Renee Zellweger's Chicago meets Johnny Depp's Sweeney Todd, but presented by DC Comics. I'm expecting it to be hilarious. Personally, I'm really.
But that's my thing. Is you've got all these characters that DC and Marvel have, and they stick to the same bloody ones all the time.
Yeah,
all the same.
Don't get me started why they haven't got a decent Hellblazer out there or something like that.
Oh,
but there's lots that DC could do because they have arguably, in my opinion, a much better catalogue of characters to work with. But they're a mess over there. They don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what it's like. Swamp Thing was a good example. They did one season of the Swamp Thing, which actually was really good, and then they just sort of dump it and. It's like, what are you doing, people?
I'm all about that 80s Swamp Thing movie, personally, man. That was great.
Oh yeah,
very violent, but very good. Very good.
Yeah, but yeah, they've got, as you said, they've got such a catalogue of characters, and in some ways, they've got more freedom because their world isn't our world.
Yeah.
So if you stick with the characters, that's the reason they have Gotham City. They can get away with making their own cities and stuff up. And it always annoyed me the fact that the comics never made the most of that. I never felt that they really did.
Yeah, because you're right. They can change so much because they have artistic license to do so. They don't have to play it so safe all the time. But in a lot of ways, they also didn't play it at all safe. Because if you look at and basically that for me, that's one of my favorite runs of comics ever, is the 80s to mid 90s DC run where it just went absolutely batshit. It was just crazy. All that Earth 2 stuff and everything. I loved all that. That was fantastic. That's
the thing was, at the time, they basically, the whole of the comic book industry, basically they produced so much stuff because people sort of got into collecting, so-called. And so there's so many different weird things and weird collected editions. But what it meant is they chucked all this material out there. And if you wade through it, there's some really good stuff in there that probably wouldn't have got made otherwise.
Yeah, Jeff Johns stuff on the Justice League and stuff at the time is just like some of my favourite comic book stuff, I think.
But yeah, so because comic-wise at the moment, there's a new run of the Blade Runner comic, which is really, really good, which I might have to do something on.
Oh yeah, please do. I've not heard of this at all. So
yeah, there's I think there's 3 or 4. They're now I'm now in Tokyo, and it's all 3 different stories, but it's really well done. Somebody's got a feel of it really nicely, and the art's good. So I might have to start doing something on the first run and do overtime in the future. Probably end up being next year or something. And what else have I been doing? I've got the Star Wars runs that I'm reading, and Venom comic that I've been reading for quite a while as well. And actually, the new Venom film's out soon. I like it.
Yeah, my daughter screamed so loud when she saw the trailer to that because she's like 16. She screamed so loud when she saw the trailer to that because she loves Venom and the character so much that it scared everyone in the cinema. Everyone thought it was part of the trailer or something.
Well, they had a trailer for the trailer.
Scream. Yeah, there was a trailer before Beetlejuice. Yeah.
Yeah, but online they had the trailer for the trailer. This is the trailer. The trailer's coming tomorrow, and I'm thinking, well, this is getting silly.
Oh, right. I didn't realise there was a trailer for the
trailer. It's like the trailer's coming tomorrow. Here's a little bit. Huh?
What? Yeah.
But no, I enjoyed the Venom films. I like the fact they managed to pull that off, and everybody said, "No, it's going to be rubbish. It's going to be rubbish." But it's Tom Hardy. Without him, it's like.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to play with the idea of the Agent Venom thing now. Is that where they're going with it? Because that was it was a novel idea, from I don't know how long ago that was, 25, 30 years ago, whatever. But Agent Venom, that's an interesting side to take. Oh, what I was going to say is, did you ever? I don't know if you ever saw that they released a Blade Runner PC game in the early 90s, like a point and click adventure game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I managed to, they re-released it recently. Like from a limited company where they're only going to do like a 500 numbered copies or something. So I managed to pick one of those up as well. Because yeah, that's a little piece of nostalgia right there. It's strange that they decided, 8 or 9 years or whatever it was after the movie to suddenly release like a point and click adventure game on it. But there you go.
But it was all quite weird because the movie technically bombed at the cinema originally. That was the thing. Because I went to see it with my friend. My friend hated it when it was released, and
how can you hate that?
I loved it at the time. And
it's so good.
I know. Good. I don't understand how he couldn't have liked it. I was still totally confused to this day. And it sort of boiled under the thing. But you've got really weird things like Vangelis didn't release the soundtrack for about 20 years. I've got a copy of the soundtrack that's done by some orchestra because that was the one.
I've got a copy of the soundtrack as well. It's a good soundtrack, man.
And then you got the proper Vangelis one that was finally released, and you got all this weird stuff, and it just sort of boiled underneath. And then until then, you got the director's cut, which wasn't really a director's cut, that was released on VHS at some time, which I've got. And then you get all these other versions going along, and it just sort of boiled under until everybody decided it was one of the best movies ever made. It was really strange how that did. And I think probably when that came out, the game is probably when it was just coming to the forefront again, and somebody suddenly thought, well, I know, let's make a game on it.
I think
I could be wrong, but
yeah, I think the director's cut had come out right around the same time, but it hadn't aired on television yet. The director's cut hadn't aired on television yet, because I think that came later in the 90s, like mid 90s, 95 maybe, something 94, 95. But I watched it by pure accident because my granddad used to have one of those VHS collections that was in clamshell cases to make it look like old leatherback books.
Oh yes, I remember those.
And I used to just pick up, because I was a nightmare for just watching Star Wars, just watching A New Hope over and over and over and over. Yeah. So I started just pulling off, because I used to practically live with my grandparents at a certain point, and I would just pull up one VHS at a time and just watch them randomly in the morning. I'd before my grandparents woke up, I'd just take a VHS off, open it up. Oh, Blade Runner, what's that? Put it in, watch it. And I couldn't believe it. Absolutely blew my socks off. I was like, "What is this?" Yeah, because it could have been anything I pulled off of the shelf. It could have been like Dirty Harry or Predator or anything. But like when I saw, when I saw Blade Runner, that was a game changer for me.
It's just the visuals more than just the opening scene. It's just like wow, and that's if you look into the making of it, that scene has got some ridiculous amount of elements that they all filmed to actually make that. Because obviously no CGI, so each one was printed individually and then combined on a film. And there's some, I can't remember the amount, but it's like 200 or something ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about Star Trek: The Motion Picture, but that kind of same feeling, isn't it? Of like, it's a slow burn, it's taking a lot of wide shots, it's using a lot of models and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's just a style.
Yeah, but then you had wonderful Sid Mead doing all the design, a lot of the design work on it, and which is but fun fact for you, I'm trying to think, have I got it up there? I can't see it there. Jim Burns, the artist, he originally designed the spinners in there, and then they decided not to go with his design, and then went off with Sid Mead, who done a lot of automotive design for it. But I've got a book that's actually got the original designs of the spinners in there, which is quite an interesting design. Yeah. Well, I've got so many books on Blade Runner, it's ridiculous.
I bet.
Talking about Ridley Scott sort of thing. You've not seen Alien Romulus yet?
I have not. Its last showing at my cinema near me is Tuesday night. I have a shift. I'm hoping that will end in time for me to have to drive back and watch it on Tuesday night, because I'm going to run out of opportunities to watch it otherwise. I'm going to be honest.
Because I'm in two minds about it, because the trailer looked like they're not doing anything different, but then I've heard some quite good things about it. So I think let's just wait and see. It's been here and gone, and I missed it, so I'll have to catch it on streaming or something, unless it returns. We occasionally get films return, but only if they're incredibly popular, like Wolverine's coming back next week, I think. Because actually, when we went to see Wolverine, I have never seen so many people in that cinema, I don't think.
Yeah, I bet.
And weirdly, because my wife's in a wheelchair, so they removed the back seat for the wheelchair to get in. And normally there's just us. And because we know exactly where, there was another wheelchair user there. It's just, huh? This is not normal. There's normally nobody else in the back row but us.
There you go. It's got that much draw.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was number 2, was it? It's weird. Yeah, no, I've never seen that. The only time I've seen it before was occasionally they have bands and that play live in there, small bands. And if anybody is of an age knows the band Meridian, Fish, the original singer, he came up here.
Yeah. Again, it's not my era, but I know Meridian, yeah.
Yeah, Fish, the original singer, came up here, and I'm a huge fan. And he came up here and did an acoustic set in the cinema, and there was that was probably more crowded, and that had more wheelchairs in as well. But they were also probably my age and people who loved it for that. But yeah, so a funny little cinema. But yeah, so I doubt Alien Romulus is going to come back, so I'll have to catch that on streaming. I think that's about. I can't think of anything else. Anything else you wish to talk about?
No, all good, mate.
Okay. I was going to say. So we will hopefully be back next month if we can fit some time in and get back more regular. But we cannot guarantee anything because things happen. I said I'll hopefully get this issue out on one out on Tuesday. So if you're watching this on Tuesday, I've got it out on Tuesday. That would be my plan. So thanks anybody for watching and listening, and we will be back soon.
Until next month.
This is a journey into sound